Hello everybody, welcome to the 2018 quarter two enhancements summary video. I am Dan Balhassan. I am Neovation's microlearning evangelist. Neovation is a company that has been around and involved with e-learning for a little bit over a decade now. We have a traditional learning management system, which is the SmartU platform, very successful, hundreds and hundreds of users around the world or organizations around the world, and hundreds of thousands of learners use it every day in a way that is suitable for a traditional learning management system, right? So you manage your instructor-led training sessions, you can do your live webinar management, you can track certifications, etc. We also have a division, which is our Flair Learning division, where we develop hundreds of traditional e-learning courses for our clients. And so we use tools like Storyline and Captivate and iSpring to develop traditional e-learning modules. Now, the reason why I point that out at the beginning is to say we have been involved with traditional e-learning for a long time, and we do tons of work, and we're going to continue doing tons of work with traditional e-learning. But that's not why you're here. You're here to learn about our OttoLearn platform, which is our adaptive microlearning platform. It's a completely different paradigm than traditional e-learning. Now, traditional e-learning and LMSs still have a great place in many companies, but it depends on the problem that you're trying to solve. One of the problems that we're trying to solve, and the reason why we built the OttoLearn platform, is because we believe that there are situations where you really need your learners to learn the content, right? So whether that's selling skills or product knowledge or customer service, where you need your learners to have immediacy of knowledge, where you need them to have rapid recall of information. The traditional learning management system world does not work well in those situations. Now imagine this. You pour all your time and energy in creating let's just say a SCORM course with Storyline. You get your learners to go through it. They go through it, they get 80% and they pass. But you know they're not going to remember a whole lot of that later on. You know that there aren't any mechanisms, unless you have people go through the course again, where you can ensure that they actually practice the information and get exposed to it sufficient number of times for them to actually retain it. And that's the problem that OttoLearn is focused on selling. Sometimes our clients will work with OttoLearn by itself. Other times it'll be OttoLearn plus an LMS, either SmartU or a different LMS. Lots of different use cases, but I want to make sure to start with that. If we're focused on learners retaining and mastering information, then we think that there's three really critical components to that. First is microlearning, which means breaking the content down into its small chunks, bits, its atomic components. And that's important because you need to be able to do that in order to be able to deliver certain components to certain users when they need it. And that's the adaptive part. Microlearning by itself just creates smaller bits of traditional e-learning, and that doesn't really change the paradigm at all. But once you have some adaptive technology in place, then you can learn what your learners know, and based on what they know, you can adapt delivery to them, give them more practice on what they don't know. And this is how you and I learn every single day, not because we've been exposed to some information once, but because we practice it. And when we practice something over time, we learn it. And that is the third leg here, is subscription learning or drip learning. Basically means practice over time. OttoLearn combines these three critical components in a way that makes it easy for a training administrator to be able to deliver this kind of adaptive microlearning with a drip learning component, which means that people learn on a daily basis and they practice on a daily basis. Now, this isn't a demo on OttoLearn, so that's pretty much all I'm going to say about the core philosophy. But I see that there are some people on the webinar here who aren't clients yet. So I'm going to just quickly show what OttoLearn looks like. Learners will get a notification, and there's all sorts of control you have over this. You can set up situations where learners will get notified to engage once a day, or they'll only get notified if they need to, based on the level of mastery they have. So have you ever had to take a SCORM course, like a compliance training course, where you've taken basically the same course for 5 years in a row? Every year you've got your standard 30 days to complete it. OttoLearn is the opposite of that. So instead of that kind of scenario, OttoLearn learns what the learner actually knows. And then based on what they know, Otto determines how much they need to engage and what kind of practice do they need to do in order to be able to maintain their level of knowledge and mastery. So if you've been in an organization for 5 years and you really know this particular subject matter, then Otto's going to have you engage to a small degree. But if you've been in the organization for 5 minutes and you have a lot that you need to learn, then Otto is going to get you to do more. I mean, it's a really simple process, and learners absolutely love it. Within the OttoLearn application itself, all the learners really need to do is hit the play button that's at the top, and then that creates an adaptive training session for them that consists of 8 to 15 different activities that the learner needs to do. And then based on how they perform those activities, Otto determines what the learner actually knows. Now, you also have the ability to drill down into particular areas if you want, and there's this whole ability to drill down into content that allows the learner to do extra practice sessions. But let's just skip over that right now. And let's just describe that I'm doing an actual mastery moment. So you can see at the top, the mastery moment is what we call an individual learning session. And it's timed to be 2 minutes in length. You know, if I tell you that you need to do a 15-minute training session, almost all of you will look at your schedule and figure out when you can find 15 minutes, which is kind of silly, right? I mean, you and I, everybody's got 15 minutes, but it's a sizable enough chunk that we think we need to schedule it. And that's the psychology of it. So OttoLearn is timed so that every individual learning session is 2 minutes in length. And now when a learner does 2 minutes, and in this case, you can see at the top here, it says, this is activity 5 of 8 is when we took this screenshot. So all I have are 8 different activities, and it's designed to take 2 minutes based on how long I normally take to complete activities, based on how long other learners take to complete activities, etc. It's very adaptive. So for this one activity, it's a very simple multiple choice. I'm going to pick an answer. It's going to ask me my confidence level. Everything about this is being timed, how long you take to actually do it, what happens if you're high confident and wrong or low confident and correct. All of those different things play into our calculation as to whether or not you actually know the subject matter. And if you're correct, then you'll get this positive feedback here. It'll give you some text which will reinforce that. It'll show you how well you did on that, which is your proficiency, and it's going to show you the impact on your mastery level. So in Otto, you start off at mastery level 0 and you get to mastery level 5 over time. And we'll tell the learner how their progress is on a very granular basis. So if I get it wrong, here's my feedback, here's the impact of my mastery level, which dropped from 1 to 0, and my proficiency. What this does is allows your learner to get really granular feedback. And we know that people spend more time looking at feedback when they're incorrect. You know, if you ask a group of learners how they want to interact with a training course, what they're going to tell you is, just let me challenge it first of all, right? If there's a no-risk challenge, probably all of us would do that. First, try to challenge your way through the activity because it's active. You're not passively going through content. So we then give them the lecture material afterwards. Now, for those of you who our OttoLearn clients, what you'll see is that this interface is completely different. And I'll show you the before and after in a moment, but this is part of the updates that we've done in Q2 is refine the user interface and really focus on providing more information to the learners. At the end of a mastery moment, then the learner is told how many activities they completed and how long they actually spent doing those activities. So we're reinforcing, this is new as well, we're reinforcing the amount of time that they spent as just a little bit over a minute, because maybe based on where this learner is with their mastery, we need to get them to do another practice round. And so we want to make it really okay for the learner to hit okay here and do another shot, and they know it's going to be 2 minutes or less. And this is the part that really helps engage the learners, because they know that they're making a series of small time commitments. And you know what's really cool? What's cool is that we've had learners do like 200 mastery moments a week, because they really wanted to learn the content and to get to mastery. Now, the thing is, you can't just cram your way to mastery, right? Like, mastery means having recall, not just like recall now and not just recall tomorrow, but recall over time. So OttoLearn uses a lot of cognitive science, and one of the things that OttoLearn does is enforced spaced repetition, which means you can't cram your way to mastery in OttoLearn. You actually have to demonstrate your knowledge over time. Anyways, lots of great white papers we have on that and other types of content. So let me go into more about what's changed in Q2. First of all, we've done a significant update to our help system, which is at support.ottolearn.com, provides very detailed help information, and we've updated our roadmap. So if you haven't been before, you should really check out these couple websites, because the support site is very detailed, has tons of great content within it on all the different aspects of OttoLearn, which is absolutely fantastic. Now, you can access it by going to support.ottolearn.com, or if you're actually in the OttoLearn admin system, you can just click help, and let's say I'm typing in help, I want to create a new topic, create a topic. I can access all of the help right there, right? And if I wanted to, I could also, right from here, do things like access our roadmap, and you can see what we've got in progress. You can vote on these items. You could submit a new idea. You can look at what we've got in the early planning stages, and you can look and see all the different features that we've launched. So this is absolutely a great way for you to see what we have and influence it. You have the ability to vote on an idea. You have the ability to mark one as critically important to you and send us some comments. And we listen to this. We modify our roadmap based on this. If you've got a question, you can use this help tool to ask a question here and send that over to our support team. Either way, we're going to make sure that you're really, really well supported. So those two resources, the support site and the roadmap, have gotten through major updates, and I think you're going to find them very, very useful. Now, one of the things that is tied into our help system, what you can do is, when you first log in by default, this little help toggle will be on. And with this little help toggle, you can actually click these red buttons here, and it'll open up the help page for that specific area. So if you've got a question about a particular area of the system, you can just click on one of these little red hotspots here, or one of these question marks, which opens up a little bit of a pop-up window, and you can get access to information right away. So having integrated performance supports for you all here so that you can get the information when you need it is really core to OttoLearn. So please check those out. I think you'll really like how that works. All right, now I should have mentioned at the beginning that happy to have questions as we go. So please pop them through the question panel, and I'll either answer them as we go or I'll answer them towards later on in the presentation, depending on where it might make sense the most. So our large enhancements for the quarter were mobile applications, multilingual translation, I'll show you some of that, the updated learner interface, you've seen some of that already. We'll talk about nudging and some languages, and then also we'll cap things off with a analytics and reporting. Very cool. So mobile applications have been released for iOS and Android. So you can just go to the Google Play Store or the iOS App Store and download the applications. Just search for OttoLearn. You'll find them, install them. It'll pretty much work as you expected. So instead of the full screen experience, you'll simply have a mobile experience. But I should also point out, you don't need to use the app. You can also use your browser on a tablet or a phone. So OttoLearn is designed to be very universal. You can use the apps, you can use a browser. As long as you've got a device that's been created sometime in the last half decade, you're going to be able to access and use OttoLearn with it. One of the things that we're working on are push notifications, which we're adding to OttoLearn in Q3. So currently right now we have email notifications. So remember when I said that you can program OttoLearn to send your learners nudges to engage when they need to engage? And if you've got somebody that has a super high level of mastery, they're going to need to engage less often than somebody that doesn't. So right now we generate emails for that. So this is a sample email, it's just my test account. Gives you an idea as to what you get. Now the part here in the middle is the adaptive message. It actually will change the text there automatically based on what the learner needs to do. So if I'm a beginner user, it's going to nudge me to do more than if I'm somebody that's experienced. And that's all adaptive. Of course, it'll have your logo and your organization's name on it when that rolls out. When you turn that on. So that's available now, and push notifications for the apps are coming on later this quarter. Now, OttoLearn has an amazing multilingual capability. I don't know if anybody on the webinar right now has that as a core requirement of theirs, but OttoLearn has absolutely amazing multilingual capabilities. Now, multilingual comes in there's two different sides to multilingual, right? So one side is the actual learner interface. So this is, now I'm looking at English content here, right? So like browser pop-ups, oops, didn't mean to actually go in there. Browser pop-ups are, this text is in English because that's content, but you can see here that the actual structural content is in the language that I've selected. So if I actually trigger a mastery moment here, then the content is going to be in the language that I've written it in, and the structure is in the learner's language. Now that's only because we haven't actually built out this particular test module in Spanish yet. But let me show you what you can do on the actual administration side. So this is our content studio here, very cool, allows you to set up structured mind map or knowledge maps of content. And let's say that I want to create a multilingual translation here. I've selected one of my topics, which is physical security. I can open up the Translate tab here, and I previously specified that I want this course available in English, German, Spanish, and French. So I can either type in a translation right here. So if I know what it is, I can just type that in, right? Or I can have OttoLearn actually auto-translate it. And all I have to do for that is to hit the auto-translate icon, and it'll automatically translate it. So you don't have to export out and then do an import and all the other shenanigans that you need to do with SCORM courses in order to do translations. It's built in, which is really cool. Now, if I wanted to make a change to this and manually override a translation, then I can just do that. So this, what it does is it gets you 90% of the way there. We are using a AI-based neural translation matrix, which means that it collectively, over the hundreds of thousands of different organizations that are using the same AI-based function, it gets smarter over time at actually developing these translations, which is great. So this automatic translation will get you 90% of the way there, and then you can tweak it. And what's really nice about the Content Studio is that you can just click on different items here. So I've got my, looking at my different topics here, I can just click on different topics and it'll update in my context panel. So I can look around and make changes where I want to make them, which is really, really nice. It's designed to be quick and easy for you to use. So that's in place now. We're going to handle over 100 languages. And as I mentioned, it's based on AI neural translation, which means it gets smarter over time. One of the things that we're working on for next quarter is doing entire activities at once so that you'll be able to translate all of the content within activities as well. So a lot more that we're doing in this area, which is great. And eventually we're going to give our enterprise clients the ability to just mark a course to auto-translate, and you could have your course automatically translated in 100+ languages continuously, and then just make the modifications to that you want to make. And that's just absolutely brilliant. If anybody's done multilingual in the SCORM world, you know that this is going to dramatically reduce the amount of time. This is what our learner interface looked like 6 weeks ago. These dots and circles here represented their mastery level. So we got some great feedback from our learners and our clients that they really liked that information, but some folks found that a little confusing. So this is the new streamlined interface that you've already seen in the samples. Now I'm just going to point out a couple things here because we're exposing some information that we haven't exposed before. And let me go over to a live, so this is the live application. Obviously right now I'm looking at it in terms of a desktop, but if it was a mobile or a tablet, it's going to look different, right? So it's fully responsive. It'll work with whatever device that you have. So what this is telling me is a couple different things. First of all, the mastery level bar here tells me what my current mastery level is, 2, and my goal, which is 4, because not all of your learners will have the same mastery goal, right? So if you're doing a course on WMIS, the folks in HR maybe only need WMIS to a level 3, but the folks in the paint booth need it to a level 5, and you have the ability to set that. So this tells the learner where they are towards their goal, because it's not just completing a course or completing an enrollment, right? OttoLearn actually cares about mastery and retention. Therefore, you need to give the learner feedback on how their goal is towards mastery. Now the next thing here, the practice value, is really cool because it's telling you how valuable it would be to do extra practice at any of these levels, right? And let me just drill into an area here, maybe antivirus software. All right, so I can see here that right now I've got full practice value in all of these, and I'm going to go and do a practice session. And I'm going to say that that's false and I'm high confident. So I'm going to get feedback here, which tells me my proficiency level is pretty high. I've gone up a mastery level, which is great. And I can open up show, and that's going to give me even more information. First of all, it's going to tell you that this activity was related to this particular concept. And if you want, you can open that up and see where that concept fits within the knowledge map, which is great because it provides the user with context. So I can see here that I was correct. My speed was about the same as other learners. I had high confidence, and based on my performance on this particular concept's activities over time, we've increased my mastery level from 1 to 2, which is great, but I'm not yet at my goal. My goal for this concept is level 3, so I'm going to hit done. Now it's going to take me back to where I was, and now you can see that the practice value no longer has a blue bar in it. Remember the spaced repetition, which is absolutely key for retention. With the spaced repetition, what we're seeing now is that it's not valuable for me to practice this over again. So if I'm going to spend time doing extra practice, which a lot of learners do, then it's telling me that I should practice one of these other areas, not this area. And that's brilliant because with OttoLearn, learners do extra practice. They want to learn and retain. It's a beautiful thing, and this gives them the information that they need. Now, let me do one and let me do one wrong because I want to show you the kind of feedback that you get. So I was incorrect on this one. I was at mastery level 3 and I've dropped down to mastery level 0, and now I can get some more information on that. So even though I was a bit faster, I was incorrect. And I was incorrect with high confidence, which is actually the worst combination, right? If you're really certain but wrong, that's the biggest impact. So I went from level 3 to level 0. But you know what? If I was incorrect and I indicated low confidence, which means that I positively self-assessed my level of knowledge, I would have gone from 3 to 2. I wouldn't have dropped all the way. And this feedback here gives you that information, which is brilliant because what it means is the learners can guide their own knowledge. Now that I've completed this, it's going to give me a chance to do another practice round if I want, which I'll be able to if I want to do it. So those are some big UI changes that we've made to the learner side, to some really great reviews from learners, which gives them more information that they can use to guide their own knowledge and growth towards mastery. Now, the other thing is we're calling adaptive nudging. Now, what that means is, and you've already seen part of this, that OttoLearn, when it displays a message to the learner, that message itself is going to be adaptive based on their particular situation. So if you've got a learner that is doing a whole bunch of practice, but they've already reached their maximum mastery that's allowed within that time frame, then it's going to tell them, hey, you can practice perhaps another area, or hey, you've practiced enough for today. Right? Or, hey, you need to do more practice. So it's going to be adaptive based on the situation of that particular learner, which is so much better than occasional emails that just come out to people reminding them to complete enrollments. Because remember, we're solving different problems with OttoLearn than we do with a traditional LMS. Because OttoLearn is all about really learning and retaining, knowing the information over time and having immediate recall. We've added a number of different languages. So we've had English and Portuguese for some time now, and we've added Italian, Spanish, simplified Chinese, German, French, and Slovakian as available languages within the system, which is great. And we've got another set of 6 or 7 different languages that we have in development and that will be released in the months ahead, which is great. So definitely we're always open to feedback on additional languages that you all feel that we should support, and we can pretty much support any language that you can use on a web browser. So if you don't see a language that's important to you, let us know, and we'll let you know when that is going to be released. Now, the last big area that we're going to have a look at before we get into questions is our analytics. So we're working on a very significant analytics suite, and I'm going to show you some test data here and walk you through some of the capabilities that we have. So our analytics and reporting package is a little different depending on the plan that you have with OttoLearn. If you have an enterprise plan, you're going to get some more detailed pages than if you have a team plan or solo plan. But I'm going to show you the enterprise plan. So here you are, you've got a dashboard page. First of all, there's a lot of great things in here, and we have a dedicated video up on our YouTube channel that you can use, which will do a full walkthrough, but I'm just going to show you a couple different things. So I've got my different modules here, and if I want, I can zero in on a particular module. So just my customer service module, and then I can see that I've got 751 learners that are taking that. I can see my level of how many learners that I have and what percentage of those learners are in mastery. So remember, this isn't about like what percentage of them have 80% or anything like that. Or what percentage of them have completed something. This is actual mastery. So here in France, I can see that my 67 learners, 24% of them have reached their mastery goal. So this is brilliant because remember, it's about knowledge. So while I've zeroed in on customer service here, I can, let me just bring up a few different modules. So there's a few different modules here. So if I want to compare my product knowledge, I can click on that, and now I can get a comparison between my product knowledge and the other 3 modules. So lots of really neat things that you can do with that. Let me just reset that. So So if I want to, I can drill in on the map. So if many of you have multi-location learners in multiple locations, this is a great way for you to be able to see a bird's eye view as to your learners' level of knowledge over time. And you can zero in on particular learners as well. So I can zero in on Diane Arnold here, and I can see that she's taking her training in Mumbai. I can zero in on Gladys here. And where is Gladys? Gladys is in Seattle. Right? So you can look at it from the point of view of learners, or you can look at it from the point of view of locations. So let me open up my Milan office here, and I can see how my learners are doing there. So absolutely brilliant ability for you to drill into your data, look at it from different points of view, and really see how your learners are progressing towards mastery. So that's our dashboard tab. There's a number of other tabs. I won't spend a lot of time on all of them, but this next one is learner mastery. And so I can see basically the same information, but from a slightly different point of view. So I can see here that 19% of my learners are in mastery for my customer service course, but let me just check to see maybe by department. So let me go into my information services department here and see how that changes, right? So you can slice and dice the information and set up filters. Now, what I really like is being able to see the distribution of mastery, which is as of right now. So if I click on my selling skills here, I can see here that 549 of my learners have mastery level 0, which means that they're just beginning. And then I can see here that more of them, let's see here, 23 of them are at mastery level 4. So really nice to be able to get a histogram here, a distribution of your learners' mastery over time. And then, of course, you can always drill down into particular learners as well. Right, so let me drill down into Mitchell here, and I can see that Mitchell here is in mastery on customer service, but not yet on some of the other assignments. So absolutely brilliant ability to zero in on things. So that was from the learner's point of view, but you can also look at it from the content's point of view. So this is your modules mastery over time. So you can see how that mastery is changing across different users. And of course, you can filter those users. So if I want to see how all the employees of one particular manager is doing, then I can see that. Lots of different ways that you can slice and dice information. Are my learners engaging over time? So this next page shows you what their engagement is over time and how their engagement is changing. This blue bar are the number of learners, and this teal bar are the number of activities that those learners are completing. So in April, this selection of learners, about 400 of them, completed 55,000 activities. Now remember, even though we're talking about a handful of activities a day, maybe 8, maybe 6, maybe 15 activities a day, whatever's going to fit within that 2-minute chunk, that actually works out to a huge amount of practice that learners do over time. So over a month and over a year, learners actually do a ton of practice, but they never feel like it's a lot of practice because they're doing it a bit at a time. Now, I mentioned before that a lot of learners will do extra practice. That's what this bar shows you here. It shows you that of that 21% of the learning sessions that people did, they zeroed in on a particular topic to do extra practice on that area, or a particular module, or a particular mastery profile, which is a job profile. So what we normally find is that about 20 to 30% of the engagement that your learners do is actually extra to what the minimum is that they need to do. And that's something that we've really never seen and nobody sees in the traditional e-learning world, because you're not going to voluntarily pick up a SCORE module. SCORE modules and long-form learning are great for things like initial training, for long-form training, and then OttoLearn comes in and drives retention. Now, let's say that you wanted to get detailed information about how learners are actually interacting with content. In a traditional e-learning world, that's really hard to get that information. But with OttoLearn, it's actually really easy because we track all of those metrics and we visualize them for you as part of our analytics package. So let's look at this particular quadrant down here, which measures accuracy and feedback duration. So if we're interested in are learners reading the feedback when they're wrong, we can see here, because down here is wrong and slow, and this is wrong and fast. So down here for this particular set of topics, people were wrong initially quite a bit, which is great because we're going to turn that into knowledge over time. And when they are wrong, they tend more towards slow. And what that means is they're taking longer to read the feedback. But generally, if they're going to be right, this should be right and fast. If they're going to be right, then they're spending less time reading feedback. Right? So you can actually drill in to different content areas. You can drill into your content and you can use this in order to get really detailed information about how your learners are actually engaging with the content, which is really neat to see. Let me map these two out here. So there's two different topics, handling unusual situation and responding to an unhappy client. So you can see here that responding to an unhappy client, they're not spending much time reading feedback. And they're wrong most of the time when they first take this activity. But responding to an unhappy client, people have more initial knowledge on. So their accuracy is higher. Right? So this is brilliant because it gives you this inside view as to what your learner's knowledge actually is. So this is one way that you can look at that, and I can drill down from the topic level to the concept. Now this is just test data, so we don't have written out titles for all of these things, so this is just sort of a fake Latin. But it shows you that you can drill down all the way from the topic level down to particular concepts, and from those concepts down to particular activities, and you can map that all and really get insights as to how your learners are doing. Now that's one way that you can do it with our quadrant analysis. Another way you can do it is by looking at the probability of error. So what this does is it tells you a different view, the same kind of information, but what is your learner's level of knowledge. When you're a beginner learner, because this only measures people when they're initially learning, and it tells you what their initial level of knowledge is. So you can see here that the biggest problem, your area where you have the most misinformation, is in handling pricing objections. That's what your learners don't know. What they know much better is building customer rapport. So this gives you a priority list as to exactly where your knowledge holes are within your organization. So it's absolutely brilliant because it tells you where you need to create more content, right? So you can, let's say if I wanted to pick handling pricing objections, so I can drill into that. I can open up at the concept level. Again, this is test data, but this might be a particular objection here. That would be one of the concepts, and I can see exactly what the probability of error here is, which is 65%. So imagine this. Imagine that you know that within your organization, people are 65% likely to not know something. Now, you can use that to generate real returns by filling that knowledge gap and translating that into the kind of behaviors that you want to see, which are actually going to profit your organization better. So whether this is product knowledge or misinformation about customer service or policies for different things, whatever your training area is, this level of knowledge gives you amazing visibility that you can use to make direct changes and see how people's knowledge changes over time. Now, this one takes a few minutes to understand, and I'm not going to go through it in a ton of detail, except it's a different type of analysis of proficiency because it's analyzing confidence and duration and accuracy in order to visualize the relationships between that. So for instance here, I can see here that people for handling pricing objections, they have a lower accuracy, but guess what? They have a higher confidence. This is the worst possible situation you can have. People are absolutely certain they know how to handle something and they're dead wrong. Versus building customer rapport, where they have a high confidence and high accuracy, right? So This gives you the ability, and I guarantee that every single organization that does this type of analysis, that looks at their content in this way, are going to be shocked to realize how much misinformation exists within your organization. And Otto's advanced analytics package provides you for the first time the ability to visualize that, and not just visualize it, but actually take action, because I'm going to want to invest more in content related to handling pricing objections, right? And I can drill down from the topic level to the concept level and see it at the concept level, and I can drill down from the concept level down to my particular activities. Now there's a lot of activities here, so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to remove some of my topics, reduce the number of activities that I can see here, right? So I can drill down now and I can see each specific activity that's exercising an area of knowledge that has misinformation. And now I can choose to pump up those concepts, add some more activities to those in order to help fill the gaps of misinformation. You've never been able to do this with SCORM. You really can't do this with XAPI in the same way either. There's no other way for you to get this information as easily and take immediate action and see how that changes over time. So now I can change the time range, and then if I refresh it, I can see how that actually impacts the information over time, which is absolutely brilliant, because this is what you want to see. What you want to see is that as your learners actually learn, and let me just select a few of my different content areas here, that their initial knowledge is at an average of 71 when they're at mastery level 0. And it increases, this is covering it a bit here, but it increases up to, I believe it's like 92 or 93 by the time these learners get to mastery level 5. And this gives you a summarized view of how your learners are actually increasing their proficiency over time. So by the time somebody gets to level 5, it's like they're doing 93% quizzes all the time, right? So how wonderful is that? And it's not just once a year, because with OttoLearn, you can provide this continuously. So people's knowledge moves up higher and stays high. So if I just want to zero in on a particular area here, so let's say I want to zero in on product knowledge, I can see, wow, an even bigger gap on product knowledge. It goes from 63 down to 89. But this tells me that I need to actually create more content, because frankly, I'm not happy with an 89% average. I'm really not even happy with the 93. I'd like it to be 95. And you can see how that changes over time as well. So it's absolutely brilliant how you can use Otto's analytics, not just to give you reporting, but to tell you which activities might be too easy, which concepts might benefit from more activities, where should you build out more content, what do learners do when they're right or they're wrong, are they spending more time looking at feedback when they're incorrect, and does their proficiency level match the mastery level, and what you should do about it. So this is designed to empower you as a training administrator to build better content, to know where and when to focus your areas on augmenting your content. And we're really happy to release this. We're doing a lot more work in this area and a number of different areas, and it's all based on your feedback. Our clients in the field report absolutely fantastic engagement, fantastic feedback from the learners, but we're always wanting to know more. So we encourage your feedback, and based on that, we're going to evolve the product further and provide you more of the abilities which are going to allow you to really make changes within your L&D practice for efficiency. Every L&D department that we know about has a huge backlog of training they want to deliver. But I like to say training doesn't matter, only the outcome matters. So we shouldn't be focused on just delivering training, because while we might feel good about that, what matters is the outcome. And if you're sitting at the executive table, you know that's the only thing that matters. So with OttoLearn analytics, you can say, look at this change we've made, and you can load in correlated data to have product sales or call handle time or safety incident numbers, and you can visually demonstrate how the mastery correlates to those KPIs that you ultimately care about. So that's the updates that we've released in Q2. We've got a lot more that we're working on. Every quarter, we're going to have some absolutely fantastic updates. We've got time for questions here if anybody has questions on anything that they've seen. Other than that, we'll wrap it up and happy to take your questions afterwards. But we're going to stop the recording shortly and be able to still be available to answer some questions. So as a next step, if you're an OttoLearn client, fantastic. If you've got questions on any of this, then reach out to us and let us know. And if you're a prospect, you're wanting to take OttoLearn for a test drive or have a deeper look at it, let us know as well, and we will set that up for you. So we'll wrap that up. I'll still be around for a couple questions, and thank you all very much. Hopefully you love what you've seen, and we look forward to your feedback, suggestions, and questions. Okay, so we've got a couple questions that are coming in. So we have a question about product training and whether or not this works for product training. Definitely, 100% works great for product training. One of the things that you can do is so if we go back to our knowledge map here, one of the things that you can do, because content is organized as a map, you can actually organize something like product training with scaffolding built into it. So imagine any type of product. So initially, somebody needs to know some basics of it, right? And once they know the basics of it, they can start building on some additional, adding some additional information and understanding benefits and features. And then on top of that, you can then start having scenarios. So you can design that all in a scaffolded way so that a learner starts off with very basic information and then they move towards more complicated information over time. So it's really great for product training. You can also very shortly be able to integrate media within the activities. And once you do that, you can do things like have shots of videos of products in use, depending on the type of product it is, right? So you can have different types of interactions that the learner can do, which are really tied to the type of products they have. But 100% you can use it for product training. Great question. I see there's another question here about pricing. So OttoLearn, the pricing, we're super transparent as a company, so you can get our pricing up on our website. Just go to OttoLearn.com, click on plans, and we've got two different types of plans. One is a user-based plan, and on the user-based plans, you can pick our enterprise, our team, or our solo plans. So look at solo. It starts at $50 a month, which is ridiculous, right? I mean, where can you get this type of adaptive microlearning for $50 a month? I mean, you can't. There are also, along with our user-based plans, there's usage-based plans. So the difference is user-based is by seats. So you can load up 100 learners or 1,000 learners or 10,000 learners, and you're going to pay based on the volume of learners that are in the system. But you can, on our usage-based plan, pay based on what people actually do. So you might have 10,000 learners, but on average, they might only complete 5 activities a day, right? Because some of them, when they reach a high level of mastery, they need to do less. Other ones, where they're beginners, they need to do more. So a usage-based plan allows you to map to that. So you buy usage credits, and those credits never expire, and then you can use those credits as you need to over a longer span of time. Really nice to have both types of plans so you can decide which one works best for you. There's a question about the science of OttoLearn. So we have 9 different learning theories that we use, different aspects of cognitive science that we use. If you go over to the OttoLearn website, you're going to see that there's this option here to download our cognitive science white paper. So this is a white paper that we've put together to answer that. And what it does is it gives you a lot of visibility over how OttoLearn actually works. And you can just download the PDF and it'll show you, it'll talk more about our adaptive algorithms and how they work and why they actually lead to mastery and retention over time. All right, I think that's it for now. Happy to answer any other questions that folks have. Just shoot them over to us. You can email us at hello@ottolearn.com as well, and we'll make sure you get an answer. Thank you all very much, and we look forward to connecting with you in the future.